everybody. It is 2023. We are back. I'm so excited. I'm super excited. It's been a break. I've missed everybody. Hopefully you've missed us too. We've got loads of people signed up today. So hopefully it's going to be a great show we got lined up. By the way, I have noticed, and this is a bit of bad news, there is a spammer out there in the audience. So I think it's the name is Leech or something, inviting you to a Zoom link. If you see that, please avoid, because it is spam and we're trying to block it. But such is the problems with success, is that we find we sometimes attract a spammer. Anyway, so much for that. We've got a new look show. We've got a new model. It's a new year, and we've got some great discussion coming up. So today's topic is called Global Mobility, a new model for a new year. And I'm absolutely delighted that we're going to have Russ Haynie and Beth Neilson with us to talk about a whole new model that Benivo is offering into the global mobility industry. I'm seeing people coming in from all over the place. See Henri from Paris. We've seen people from France, from Germany. We've got Paul from New Jersey, from Justina from Germany. It's just great to see you all here. I won't give you all a shout out, otherwise we'll never get the show started. But we've got just so much going on. But for those of you who it's your first time, let me just say this, and is please do join in the conversation. Write in the comments box. Tell us who you are, where you are. As we go through, ask us questions. One of the beauties of this show is that we are live, we're interactive, and we have a lot of fun with the audience. So please do. So that shout out to John Lee from remote work, from work from anywhere, actually, out in Cascais in Portugal, Begonia from Hamburg, people coming in from all over. So anyway, as I said, today we're going to be talking about a new model for the new year, and more of that in a moment. But next week, actually, we've got another really exciting show. Next week, we're going to be talking about celebrating innovation. Hopefully you remember that the back end of the last year, we came up with our top 100 innovators. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get a couple of the innovators live in the studio next week, and we're going to be talking about innovation they've been doing, about innovation in the industry. And it's really exciting because we've got, well, two legends of our industry. We've got Tessa Boone from Ford, and we've got Arjun Jongalada from Baker Hughes. So two really experienced senior global mobility professionals joining us. So just super excited about that. Now, the other thing I should say, of course, is you can get your CPE credits. So if you're in the business of collecting CPE credits, then here they are. Just leave them up here for a moment. But you can get your CPE credits. You can get them from ERC. You can get them from HRCI, you can get them from SHRM. So those credits are there and are available, which is really great news. What I want to do now, of course, is to move on and to share with you some breaking news. Every week we try to have a little bit of breaking news. So let's see what is this week's breaking news. So congratulations to everybody who's moved job. Everyone's been promoted. Note, if you're looking for a job, there's some interesting jobs out there as well. I should have said, but we didn't put it in breaking news, is also congratulations to Vialto. Vialto, even as we speak, are having their first ever Global Mobility Conference as Vialto. Obviously, as PwC, they had conferences for many years. But this is the inaugural Vialto Client Conference that is going on as we speak today in Vegas. So if you're out in Vegas at the Vialto Conference and you're seeing us first thing in the morning, or catching up you're catching us on catch up later on in the day, then hope you enjoy the conference. I'm sure it's going to be great. And obviously you're going to have great weather out in Vegas today. So let's move on. What we want to do, first of all, is get into talking about immigration. As ever, we have the wonderful Julia Onslow Cole with us. So you know how it works, everybody. Please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button as we bring onto stage the wonderful, the great, the legendary Julia Onslow Cole. Julia, how are you doing?
Hi, Brian. Very well, thank you. Very well. Happy New Year to everyone.
And to you. And where are you at the moment?
I'm in London.
Okay. But for long, or are you traveling again soon?
No, I'm going to the States at the weekend for 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll be doing our show next week from the States and for the next couple of weeks.
From San Francisco. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll look forward to that. But you're not taking us to the US now. You're taking us to Asia Pacific, I believe.
Yes. And I wanted to start with Asia Pacific because really there's been so much news about China. And I wanted to just say a big thank you to Becky Shea, Mark Buchanan, and also Jenny Fackelman from our nomadic team. So China, the really big news is the reversal of the zero COVID policy. And you will recall that we did say in October that we thought that there would be a reversal of the policy. And we said this just before the 20th National Congress meeting of the Chinese Communist Party. And we were a bit disappointed that there weren't any announcements then, but there has been a dramatic end. And on the 8th of January, China lifted all post-arrival quarantine requests for inbound travellers. So that's ending almost 3 years of self-imposed isolation. Now, mainland China has also opened up its border to Hong Kong. But I think the important thing to note is, although the government has now removed completely the health declaration code and all post-arrival quarantine, you still have to take a COVID test, within 48 hours of departing for China. Now, the zero COVID policy has had an enormous impact on the Chinese economy. It's estimated that the economy grew by less than 3% last year, and that it's foregone about 1 trillion worth of GDP compared to what it would have had if it had kept open like the rest of the world, when the rest of the world was opening.
Say that number again.
Now, $1 trillion.
Wow, that's a lot of dollars.
And we've been really monitoring what's happened over the last few days, and what we're seeing is an enormous surge of Chinese citizens rushing to plan trips abroad. But this has then now led to a lot of mandatory COVID tests that countries are imposing because of the very high COVID rate. China has the worst ever outbreak of COVID. One estimate is that 37 million people. The outbreak is forecast to get worse because of the Lunar New Year holidays, which are running particularly from the 21st of January. And the Chinese Ministry of Transport expects more than 2 million passengers to be traveling over the next 40 days. So the nature of the COVID test varies from country to country, and we're preparing.
Okay, we seem to be losing Julia at the moment. So we're going to say goodbye to Julia. I'm not sure what has happened there. But what we are going to do is we're going to bring Pat on screen, and I'd like to see Pat. Pat, are you with us?
I am here.
Okay, well, I don't know what happened to Julia there, but hopefully she'll come back in a moment. But Pat, actually, hang on, we have Julia again. Julia, are you back with us?
Yeah, I'm really sorry. I have obviously lost connection
in the interim, but if you just finish up and then we'll move on swiftly to talking about with Pat.
So just saying that a number of countries have actually put in COVID barriers because of the high rate of COVID. 37 million people a day are actually estimated to be catching COVID. And what we noticed yesterday is that actually it seems that the Chinese consulates are retaliating. So in South Korea and Japan, they're actually saying they're not going to issue any visas for people who want to go into China. So it's a very, very fast moving situation, and just, you know, something that we've really got to monitor and update. And next week or the week after, maybe I'll come back to China and also look at Singapore and the new developments there. Thanks, Brian. Perfect.
Okay, so today, thank you for that, Julia. But today I've got to announce is actually quite a sad day.
No, it's not.
We're saying goodbye. We're saying farewell, adios to Pat Jurgens, who is stepping down as our expat tax guru, and in fact, from next week is being replaced by the wonderful Julie Barron from Vialto Partners. So, Pat, it's been such fun having you on the show for the last 2 years. And everybody, what I want to see you do now, I want to see this screen light up, hit that heart, hit the applause, hit the love button. Let's love bomb Pat Jurgens. Julia, have you got any sort of goodbye words you'd like to say to Pat whilst you're live on screen? And then
Well, I really, really, really miss doing things with Pat. So, you know, it's been such fun, and yeah, so I'm really sad, and, you know, good luck with everything. And it's been really good fun.
And the comments are coming up here from John Lee. We'll miss you, Pat. You've done a great job. So actually, we're going to say goodbye to you now, Julie. I'm just going to move you backstage. And let's just focus on the man of the moment. So, Pat, you've been doing the show, is it about 2 years now?
2 years, yes. And I counted just in 2022, I did 20 shows. So half of the shows that you do, I'm usually there.
Yeah, you did. And I think you've been a rock. I mean, you've been on pretty much every time. I don't think you ever take a vacation. You're always there. We do actually have, Pat, some of your best bits. I was going to say some of your naughty bits, but these are some of your best bits that we're going to show live on air. So let's just say a little video, a farewell video to Pat Jurgens. But everybody I want to see this screen light up, hit the heart, hit the applause. Let's love bomb the wonderful, wonderful Pat Jurgens with his best bits. Happy New Year, Pat. How are you?
Happy New Year, Brian.
Hey, it's Expat Pat. Good to see you.
Brian, good day to you.
So I wanted to cover some tax developments in China, to give a few updates on tax developments in Canada. Moving on, I just wanted to spend some time this morning talking about the Russia sanctions.
No idea this is true or false, but it's a great one. Okay, so now we're going to move on, and we're going to say goodbye to Pat. I'm going to say goodbye to you, Pat. You know what to do. Hit the heart, hit the like, hit the applause. Let's see this screen go mad with love. Hit the like button, hit the heart button. A big, big thank you to the one and only Pat Jurgens.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
So, Pat, well, you are pretty impressive. You've been around the world several times. We had Russia in there. I know you've done all countries all over in Europe and in countries big and small. You've given us all sorts of tax updates. You are truly a legend of the industry. And Julie Barron joins us next week from Vialto. I'm sure she'll be wonderful, but she'll certainly have some pretty big shoes to fill. So anyway, we really, really appreciate everything you've done for the show. So all that really remains now, Pat, is to say goodbye. But perhaps, is there any sort of last word of tax wisdom you want to share with your fan club out there?
Well, of course, make sure you pay your taxes. That's going to be the most obvious one. But, just the thought of having done this show now for over 2 years is pretty meaningful for me, to be honest. And I've certainly learned a lot of new skills, especially being comfortable talking live on screen. That was something that I wasn't familiar with. And learning a lot of new tax topics just for the show. World Cup taxes, LGBTQ taxes, all these things I really didn't have know anything about. And because of the show, I was able to learn that. So it's been great to be on the show. And I wanted to thank you, Brian, Tally, and Julia, and all the other guests. Let's not forget the guests that I learned a lot from all the shows and the guests that you've had and all the interesting things that they're doing. So it just shows that the profession of global mobility is pretty impressive. And I say profession, not industry. We are always practicing global mobility. So
absolutely. Let's make that our New Year's resolution. We are a profession, not an industry.
Yes,
absolutely. So, Pat, thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for all your wonderful wisdom. And don't be a stranger to the show. Always sort of, be in the audience. Add your comments. We'll always make sure we put your comments as they come through. So that really is that for Pat. He's got the curtain behind him to take his bow out, although I think you're actually in a hotel room in Vegas at the Vialto conference by coincidence at the moment. So we're going to say goodbye to you, Pat, and we're going to bring on our Changemaker. And we've got so many legends on the show today. So we've got the wonderful Siobhan Cummins as our Changemaker today. So as we say goodbye to Pat, we're going to say hello to Siobhan. So everybody, once again, hit those buttons and let's send some love Pat's way and indeed Siobhan's way. Siobhan, my friend, how good to see you. How good to see you on the show. And thank you for joining us.
No, and thank you for inviting me, Brian. It's good to see you, and a very happy new year to everybody on the show. It's great to join you all for this first inaugural show of 2023.
Absolutely. And as I said, it's a show full of legends because you really are a legend of mobility. You've been in mobility in some pretty big companies, but you grew up in mobility. I jokingly called you an expat brat earlier, which is probably a little bit untoward, but you were certainly an expat kid, weren't you? So tell us a bit about how you got into mobility.
Yes, so most of my childhood was spent living in different countries. So in Asia, Australia, in the Middle East. So we were a family that moved every few years, and so I think somehow that got into my blood. And I didn't choose a career necessarily in mobility. I think, like many people, I kind of ended up in it. But I think it was absolutely the right choice for me, and hence I've stayed in it for over 35 years now, and had many fantastic opportunities working for lots of different organizations.
And because you've worked both as a consultant and in some in-house roles, I know you've had some big names on your CV like EY and Thomson Reuters and Naspers and Mercer, ORC. But these days you're doing some freelance work as well, aren't you?
Yes, that's right. So I do quite a lot of advisory work. So I'm working with organizations like Global Mobility Executive, and I'm helping some tech startups as well. So some good friends who I know are online today. And I also do some search work with TMS. And so lots of different things, which I think at my stage of my career, it's great to have the opportunity to get involved in lots of different areas.
So, and then tell us about the charity. Also, it's not a charity, is it? It's a not-for-profit. So tell us about Permits Foundation and what they do, because some people, I know a lot of people will know them, but let's assume, there'll be some people out there that maybe don't know them that well, and they are an awesome institution. So tell us a bit about Permits Foundation.
Yeah, very happy to. And perhaps just to give you a little bit of background, I think it goes back to the sort of 1990s when I was working actually for an organization called ORC, and we started doing research into the whole issue of dual career couples and some of the challenges that families faced when they went on international assignments. And so I think that really started my whole interest in the whole dual career issue. And at the time, there really wasn't an awful lot being done to support partners of international executives going on assignments. Some companies were paying an allowance, that kind of thing. But we knew from our research that it was really important for partners to actually be able to work in the host location. And so myself and Julia Onslow Cole, who is a great friend and also on the show today, Katie van der Wilk and I got together and we actually worked with a number of our now sponsor organizations to establish the Permits Foundation. So the primary objective of the foundation is to actually enable partners to work in the host location. So we work with governments to try and relax any restrictions, which increasingly is becoming more and more important with skill shortages in different countries, etc. So both Julia and I and Katie van der Wilk were founder members of the foundation.
Okay, it really is an amazing organization, and I know a lot of prestigious companies are supporting it, and we certainly wish you all well for the future. You've obviously given your time, volunteered there for many years, and kudos to you for doing that, for something that is so important to all of our hearts. And you are a change maker. What do you get out of being a change maker? What do you find interesting or useful from your perspective?
Well, I think the great thing is the access to so many fantastic global mobility professionals and some of the topics that come up. I think one of the great things is that if a change maker asks a question, they have then access to so many other global mobility folks, and so they can get a very quick response. There was a question recently on repatriation policies, and some really great stuff came out of that discussion. So I think it's a really invaluable service to other global mobility folks.
Okay, and if anybody's interested in becoming a change maker, then the ticker is there, but just you can find it on the Benivo website. Do reach out to us. Anyway, we're going to move on now, and we're going to be talking about the subject of the day, which is what we're calling the new model for the new year. So we're going to say goodbye to you, Siobhan. Thank you so much for your help and your thoughts. And we're going to bring on today's special guests, who are Russ Haynie out in Atlanta and Beth Neilson back in the UK. So let's do that. Let's say goodbye to Siobhan. Let's welcome our new guests. And you know how it works. Everybody hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's light up those screens. So welcome, Beth. Welcome, Russ. Where are you? Where are you today, Russ?
I am in my home office in Atlanta and so happy to join you. Thank you, Brian.
Cool. And Beth, you are?
I'm just outside of Ely in the UK, so near Cambridge.
Right. So welcome to both of you. We call this a new model for the new year, and it's something I'm super excited about because we're doing stuff which I don't think anyone has really done before, which is we're taking consulting services and basically saying, we're not charging for them. We're putting these in. I mean, obviously this is for clients or people who are very close to becoming clients, where we are having conversations with them, but we're taking a lot of stuff. Now, there's actually 3 elements to it. We're only really going to be covering one element in detail today, but there's 3 elements. There's data analytics, supply chain vendor management, and client advisory. Beth, if I can just start off with you, could you just tell us a bit about what those 3 elements are? Just give us the background about the why and the what.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, Happy New Year. Just for those of you who don't know who I am,
Indeed.
I'll do a little
At which point she froze.
No, I'm still here. I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay, carry on.
I was going to say, I'll just do a very quick intro for those of you who I've not had the pleasure to meet yet. Firstly, Happy New Year. I've worked, as you know, my name is Beth Neilson. I'm a client. I do client development in EMEA for Benivo, but I've been in mobility for around 15 years now, working at a Big Four, a couple of tech firms, and at an RMC prior to joining Benivo just over a year ago. And I am super excited by today's topic because of my background and where I've worked before. We are, as Brian said, giving 3 subject matter experts to all of our clients or those that are close to becoming clients. The supply chain vendor manager means that if you've got vendors that you are really happy working with, then we will onboard those vendors at no cost. We work with them, work with you to make sure that you've got the vendors in the places that you want to work with. And that is just not something that everybody offers. A support also with negotiating with your vendor, making sure that you're getting the value out of that relationship and getting the savings that you need as well. So that is.
So this is any vendor. So we don't have preferred vendors. This is any vendor, any service provider in your supply chain, and no charge for onboarding them, or indeed for helping decide who you're going to use and the whole process.
And exactly, and I won't go into it now because I know we've done whole shows on security aspect of it as well, but making sure that you've got security in your supply chain network through our supply chain vendor manager and how we onboard them and how we work with those vendors. Again, something that, you know, protecting your PII, protecting you from risk, protecting you from fines, just through that subject matter expertise.
Okay, and tell us a bit about bespoke data analytics.
Now, this is one that's really close to my heart, Brian. So I love data, as anyone who's ever been on a call with me will know. So it's not just about implementing our basic reports, but also and building out any bespoke reports that clients need. So as you know, at Benivo, we don't expect you to have an in-house super user. We'll build all your reports for you. So you don't have to worry about that configuration. But that also means that our data analytics team are able to help pull out data and revisit that data to highlight themes, trends, choose the best format for that data, and not just during implementation, throughout your relationship with Benivo.
Okay, and then we've got client advisory, and I'll bring you into the conversation at this point, Russ. But before I do, Russ, just tell us a bit about yourself, because you're a bit of a legend in our industry too. You've been around for a week or two in the Indian industry and have worked for some pretty major companies. So tell us a bit about your career journey.
Thanks, Brian, and thank you, Beth, for teeing this up so nicely. It's so nice to join the show today, and Happy New Year to everyone. I have recently joined Benivo's client advisory team, and as you say, Brian, 2023 will actually be my 32nd year in the industry. And for most of that time, I've been providing mobility benefits consulting services, both as a member of relocation management companies and as an independent consultant. I have had the pleasure of partnering with hundreds of companies to develop and optimize mobility programs. And what I enjoy most is just how each of those engagements is so unique to the culture of the companies and the teams I get to work with. And I absolutely get to learn something new every time. One of my earliest roles in the industry was working as a relocation counselor on site at the Coca-Cola company here in Atlanta. They're headquartered here in Atlanta. And when I was there, I developed a real deep empathy for transferring employees and their families and all of the colleagues who sit on the front line to deliver mobility services. And, I'd say to this day, I've really tried to hold on to that empathy as a touchstone in my work and the solutions that I recommend. I'm so excited that my new role will keep me engaged.
What's all this about? Terry Oliver. I first met Russ when he was a baby in the industry. We've got to hear a bit more about this.
I love it. Thank you so much, Terry. It's so nice to hear from you. And I've seen so many familiar friends and names in the attendees list. So thank you all for attending. I'm just so excited that I'll be able to work with so many of you, certainly our clients, members of our Changemakers network, hopefully some of those top innovators that we unveiled last month, and of course, my Benivo colleagues, including Beth, who I am so delighted to have joining me today to introduce our client advisory services. So
look at this comment from Kerry. Let's put that bucket back up again. Benivo, you have scored, snagging Russ. So Russ,
how kind. Thank you, Kerry. I love it. Thank you so much.
Comment. So Russ, tell me, I mean, also, putting everything aside, all joking aside, I mean, doing client advisory work free of charge is pretty radical stuff. So I'm sure you've been snapped up pretty immediately by clients saying, my gosh, I can't believe this. This is a service that used to be charged for, the phrase arm and leg springs to mind. But, but here you are offering a service free of charge. So tell us about some of the, you've been on board, a couple of months now, some of the client advisory projects you've been working on in the last couple of months.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent way to start and to help our audience get a feel for what we're aiming to provide through our advisory services. I would say, you're absolutely right. I hit the ground running at Benivo, and I've had some wonderful engagements with our clients so far. The first project, and when I say first, literally the first week I was here, I was engaged with a large global technology company, and they were focused on intern lump sum payments and housing stipends.
And when you say large, you mean large, don't you?
They had a very large organization. That's
the only clue you're getting out there.
Right. As we know, internships were largely scaled back or managed virtually over the past several seasons, mainly due to COVID restrictions. But now we're seeing companies once again supporting physical travel and mobility benefits for interns. And a lot of those companies are discovering that the policies they had in place pre-pandemic may have gotten a bit stale and may be in need of a refresh. And that, Brian, leads to a fun fact that I'd like to share with the audience.
Oh, hang on. We can do something with a fun fact. Here we go.
I love it.
So what's our fun fact? We've done the fun fact vid. Let's have the fun fact.
Love the fun fact vid. Thank you for that, Brian. I would say the fun fact around internships, and fun is relative, right? This is still mobility we're talking about. But the fun fact that I found, which I think is that, these internships are so critically important to overall talent acquisition goals. And I found a piece of data that I think reflects that. According to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, the intern conversion rate jumped pretty significantly from 55% all the way up to 64% between 2020 and 2021. And that's notable because it really speaks to how much emphasis employers are placing on internships today. They extended offers to nearly 80% of their interns. And that's incredible if you think about it. And when we think about the impact of the pandemic and how it hindered traditional means of talent acquisition, it did place a lot of emphasis on interns. And I do believe that that has stuck. So in the case of the project I worked in, I was able to deliver some broad market perspective on common practices, but I was also able to supplement that by literally entering the Benivo platform, just as this company's interns will be able to, and shop for services and housing options and make recommendations that were appropriate for each of their destination markets and advise on appropriate lump sums and stipends. So it was a really nice project to really kick off my tenure here at Benivo. And also, go ahead.
I was going to say it's worth highlighting how quickly you turned that around. I know we got you working pretty much from as you said, from day one on that, but you delivered results so quickly, and we're able to, it wasn't a 2-month project, a 3-month project. I think the timing of your delivery was just fantastic.
Oh, thank you, Beth. That's so kind. I appreciate that. I also wanted to talk a bit about a project that I've worked on. I'm kind of in the late stages of working with a software company that operates a Core Flex program. And, their policy was originally implemented to handle...
Core Flex is hugely topical at the moment. I know in our Changemakers group, we're having a lot of discussion about Core Flex, and people are implementing Core Flex, I think, right, left, and center at the moment.
Absolutely.
It's very on trend.
It has proliferated, and this company is not alone. So many companies have adopted these programs. And what we're finding is that they really do require some ongoing attention. As you accumulate experience working with Core Flex policies, it's really important to leverage that experience. And that's exactly what this company is partnering with us to do. They've noticed that their move patterns have shifted away from exclusively new hires and perm transfers. They're including more self-initiated move scenarios, more internal transferees. So I was able to partner with this company to really take a fresh look at that program. We revisited budgets. We ensured that those budgets were responsive to family size and move distance. And we also were able to shift some of the provisions between Core and Flex to really suit their evolving needs. I know so many companies will similarly be engaged in these types of efforts. And we've found through Benivo's research in partnership with Air Inc., there was a benchmark study completed recently that said or validated that among the participating organizations, 63% are focused on adding more flexibility for their business and 52% more flexibility for their employees. So absolutely, Brian, always on our radar, Core Flex policies.
And we've just put the link up in the comments on LinkedIn, and we'll also try and shove it on screen. Here we go. Many thanks, Tally.
And I know we're having another, we're planning a Changemaker session where we explore this in even more detail. And some of our Changemakers so kindly have come forward and said that they want to talk about their experience implementing a points basis for Core Flex. So loads more data to come on there as well. Again, another great reason to join the Changemakers, but showing that this industry is so great, as Siobhan said, at sharing information.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me about another project? I think there's another one you're working on. You're doing 3 at once here. So tell us the other project that you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, very busy. And this one I'm so excited about. It's actually one that I've really just begun, and it's focused on cost optimization.
That is huge. Everyone in the current environment, everyone is talking cost optimization. In fact, we'll come on to that. We did a poll on that in a bit. But tell us a bit about this project.
Yeah, this project is for a retail client. They actually do also operate under a Core Flex policy structure. But this is an excellent case study in how I would pursue an engagement where we're really looking at everything, looking for all opportunities to improve the cost performance of the program to suit the business realities for this client. And, one of the first things I'll deliver to this client is a policy review. I want to bring forward to the client broad observations about the program, any obvious places where they are above or below common practices. And what that does is it really helps us move on to the next stage in a very focused way, which will be some strategic benchmarking to really help them validate changes that they may want to take back to the business. I really am a proponent of manageable range of considerations for benchmarking, and this client will be engaged with me in that way. Because I really think benchmarking is extremely valuable, obviously, but it also should be part of a layered process, and that's exactly what we're proposing. As you said, Brian, this is so much on the radar for our clients, and I think the polling that we've done will validate that, as we see a bit later.
We'll come on to that in a moment. But the cynic in me is going to say, well, why? And I'm sure there'll be some out in the audience. Why are Benivo doing this? Okay, so why is Benivo even offering free client advisory services?
Sure. I would say primarily this vision was born from recognizing that Benivo's clients often benefit from receiving guidance on optimizing mobility benefits. And that could be either in tandem with working with Beth and her colleagues to implement the Benivo platform newly to their programs, but it could be on an ongoing basis as well. And these efforts ensure benefits remain up to date, on trend, on brand, that they're aligned with competitive practices, aligned with budget constraints and business objectives. Even in my brief time here, I've seen that the desire of our clients to optimize their mobility experiences by harnessing the full potential of our technology, it's really challenging their traditional assumptions about what can or cannot be done with their benefits. And I think that's so tremendously exciting.
Okay, and Beth, from your perspective, how does this link in with the client success side and the development side of the business? Because obviously there's got to be a link there.
Yes, certainly. So a lot of people, when they start to look at changing their technology, it's because they're going through a wider change. So there are other things that they're looking to change, and actually having advisory as part of that evaluation process to understand that they're going to get support to review their policies, design new policies, benchmark against competitors in the industry. It's just so crucial at this time of change. And rather than having to have a separate project that then may not fit in with the technology that they select in the end, or the policies that they want, or maybe okay for now, but not okay in 6 months, a year's time, it just means that we're giving our clients that peace of mind all the way through their relationship with Benivo, and giving them the freedom at this time when they need cost optimization to not have to spend more to achieve those cost savings. They're getting that advice without having to have budget to get the advice. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to offer that to clients and prospects alike, but not just on a implementation basis, but ongoing through our relationship.
Okay, so maybe we should look at a little bit of polling that we did. Just take this comment from John Lee. Great initiative. Congrats to the Benivo team for doing this. Hugely helpful for clients. I have no doubt, together with the Changemaker, that's a real differentiator and a benefit to the industry. Kudos. Love you, John. Love you. You can come anytime. love the comments. But what I want to do is actually do a little poll. I want to ask the audience a question. And the question is this, is what is your top priority for 2023? So here we are, we're 11 days into the new year, and the New Year's hangover is past, and we're now sort of back at work. The world is starting again, and you're beginning to think about what your top mobility priority for next year is. And I'll give you some choices, although feel free to add in some of your own. But the choices I'm going to give you are these. Maximizing flexibility, overcoming move resistance, cost effectiveness, or market competitiveness. So we've got cost effectiveness, market competitiveness, maximizing flexibility, or overcoming move resistance. And maybe just talk about some of those. So, well, actually, maybe start with you, Russ. What is cost effectiveness?
Well, it's an interesting question because honestly, it means different things to different companies, and it is perennially in competition with flexibility, right? And I think it's at the heart of the consulting services that I provide, is helping companies really navigate those, what can seem like two competing priorities, but honestly don't need to be. And I think leveraging technology and leveraging experience with working with benefits and understanding the front line of feedback that we have access to, we can really optimize that. So I'm hugely excited to see how our audience responds to these options, and that we can share some polling results today. Very excited.
No, we actually did this poll slightly earlier on LinkedIn, so I can share the results that we had. I'll just put them up here now. So as you can see, in terms of the top priority, cost effectiveness came top. 40% of respondents said that cost effectiveness was their top priority. Market competitiveness was actually fairly low down. It was 11%. Maximizing flexibility was 33%. And the one, in a way, that slightly surprised me was 16% said that their top priority was overcoming move resistance. I don't know if that's a bit of a COVID hangover, but people actually just not wanting to move. So tell me, how does this tie in with your sort of thinking, Russ, in terms of what you're seeing as people's top priorities out there in the marketplace at the moment?
Sure. Well, it was a bit of a horse race, right, between maximizing flexibility and achieving some cost effectiveness with your program. Definitely two competing priorities, but LinkedIn kind of restrained you from choosing more than one option. So it would have been interesting to know, would have companies chosen both of those as competing priorities, perhaps. I'm also interested in the reluctance to relocate, and I think some of that is a hangover of sorts from the pandemic. But I know here in the US, there's a lot of concern about rising mortgage interest rates and the impact that that's having on homeowners. Home affordability and increasing home financing costs are creating quite a bit of stickiness in the industry in terms of being able to motivate homeowners to move. Yeah,
that's a great point. We had Rocket Mortgage on the show at the back end of last year, and they were making exactly that point in terms of the economic outlook and the high interest rates and people being locked into mortgage deals, and mobility's problem being to find a way of unlocking effectively the real estate market.
Yeah, it's definitely something to watch this year. I think that it definitely could increase throughout the year, depending on what the economy does and what housing prices do. So definitely something to keep on our radars.
And another comment that came in is from Mena, actually. She said, the business is interested to look into ESG sustainability in mobility processes. Policy that didn't hit our polling as a top priority, which is a bit surprising because I'd have thought it would be up there. But it sounds like people at the moment, on a day-to-day basis, seem to be focused in on much. I don't know what the phrase is, but if there's some sort of hierarchy of needs, it's sort of much down the bottom end of sort of saying we've got to manage our budget because there might be job losses out there or cost cutting going on.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the industry is being a bit reactive at the moment to the economy and really in a wait and see mode to see, what happens with the global economy. But sustainability, and Mena, thank you so much for that comment. I could not agree more that it definitely is a topic of interest for me and for so many of my clients. I would say that with sustainability, it's a broad topic. It can feel like an overwhelming objective, and it is aspirational for us as an industry, but there are practical things that can be accomplished to contribute to those goals. And I look so much forward to opportunities to join the show throughout the year and definitely tackle all the component parts of sustainability, because as you said, Mena, it's, we think about it traditionally as kind of environmental impacts of our work, but it also is sustainability from an employee experience perspective, diversity, equity, and inclusion, ES&G, as you said, all of those things fall into the umbrella of sustainability, and I'm really excited to tackle those on this format.
I was just jumping in there to say that I think this is just an excellent example of how at Benivo we deliver, we answer that one question that all the employees ask, which is what does everyone else do? But by having client advisory on offer to all of our clients can ask that same question. What is everyone else doing? What's everyone else focusing on? How are they addressing this challenge? And our client advisory team is able to then share that data and offer best practice. So I think it's fantastic, not just to be able to do it in this forum, but for all of our clients to be able to sense check and access that, not just with that limited number of hours that sometimes comes with your implementation contract.
That's a great point, because there's a really big difference between what I'd call statutory consulting, which is maybe tax and legal, and policy consulting. When you're going to your tax consultant or your immigration consultant, you basically want them to tell you the answer. This is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and it's a bit. I know it's nuanced, but broadly speaking, there is a level of black and white in there. Whereas when you're doing policy consultancy, the general question is, can you tell me what other people are doing? What is doable? There isn't that sort of that statutory element to that we get to. Now, we did have another poll. I want to share another poll that we did and see what the audience think about this. We asked the question, this is the question, what are your plans for your mobility programs, policies and benefits? And basically what we're trying to get a handle on is how substantial are you likely to be when it comes to making changes in 2023? And we gave people a couple of options. We said a major overhaul, some tweaks, or no changes planned. So again, I'd like to ask our audience out there, especially the corporates of you, or if you're not a corporate, maybe think about it in terms of your major client. What are their plans for next year? Is there going to be a major overhaul of policy, or is it going to be just, some tweaks here and there, or is it going to be no changes planned? I mean, what are you picking up, Russ?
Well, it's I see kind of an inverted bell curve of sorts in terms of need and in terms of focus. It's really, I see a lot of attention paid to policy at the margins. Those companies that are operating in new programs, smaller volume programs, they're maybe just getting their feet wet, so to speak, with mobility, very needy and very much engaged with policy. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have the very large, complex programs that are moving lots of people and have a lot of on-site or on staff there on-site to be able to kind of manage through strategic initiatives. And they're very much engaged. Where I see the drop off and more of the incremental focus is in the middle, that middle ground. The companies that have the policies that have been in place for quite a while, those are the ones looking at the incremental changes. But there's always exceptions to that, and I'm interested to see what our audience comes back with.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's pull up. I think we had Trish McDonald there from Westinghouse, and she said we did the overhaul last year in 2022, so only small changes planned in 2023. Well, yeah. Here's hoping. Sometimes you never know; these things sort of come up and bite you too. But interesting. So they did a big plan. Actually, it's a really good question that comes out of that. Is, Ross, how often do you think people should do a major overhaul?
Well,
it needs to be 3 years, or if you had a rule of thumb, how often should you do a overhaul of your policies?
Well, aside from, let's start with how often should you really take a diligent look at your policies, and I really do think that you should do that annually. It doesn't need to be a major overhaul, but you should put fresh eyes and seek consultancy around your policy probably on an annual basis. But a major overhaul for most companies doesn't happen maybe every 2 to 3 years. And I've certainly reviewed policies before that are 10 years old or older. So, that gets a little scary if you've let them fall behind that far. So I do encourage our clients to be diligent, be engaged with us. Let's take a regular look at those policies. Trish, I'm sure you would be able to attest a major overhaul is quite a thing to embark on. And but it's nice when you get on the other side that you can't make these little
question for Trish, if you're prepared to answer it, Trish, is you did an overhaul in 2022. When was the one you did before that? I mean, do you know, was it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years ago? Just curious if you're prepared to share about, how often, what sort of cycle you might be on in terms of redoing it. In terms of what the audience said, whilst we're waiting for Trish to come back to us, if indeed she's able to do so, what the audience said when we polled it was 34%, that's 1 in 3, said they were going to do a major overhaul this year. Half said they were going to do just some tweaks. Only 16%, so what's that, about a sixth, isn't it, said no changes planned at all. So the vast majority, 84%, are planning either tweaks or a major overhaul.
That's great. And to me, it validates that.
Trish has come back saying
good.
2018, maybe, from memory. So if we take Trish as a very small empirical sample of one, what we're saying is that's every 4 years, maybe 2018 to 2022. So, for 3 to 5 years, it's sort of, maybe that's what people should be looking at.
I think so.
Here, if a third of our audience has said that they're going to do a major overhaul this year, that again rather implies that you do a major overhaul every 3 years.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing, Brian. Very astute data analytics there from you. I could not agree more. I think that's a very telling result. But what I'm most happy to see is that a clear majority of our participants today are engaged in their programs and in their policies. And, even those incremental changes can yield very significant results. But it's all dependent on the market, right? And it's all dependent on what's happening with your company. There's mergers and acquisitions and move patterns evolve and business needs evolve, and we have to be responsive to that. So maybe 3 years on average, but maybe more frequently if the business demands it.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on that, Russ, and say we're going to be actually sharing. We talked about the cost effectiveness in the previous poll, and at Benivo we're running some cost optimization sessions. I know we've got a show on it in a couple of weeks with the fabulous Selena and
Selena Jones-May.
Selena Jones-May. I just say Selena. Everyone knows Selena, right?
Selena, absolutely. If you don't, Selena Jones-May from another industry legend.
Yeah, she's amazing, and we're doing some we're doing some sessions as well over the next few weeks, because even if you're not doing a major program overhaul and you just want to look at some incremental changes, some ideas about changes that have worked and how they have optimized your spend, optimized your cost, things you might not have considered before. I think it's really key to get those new ideas into your program as well, which obviously we can help you implement, but just have those ideas in the first place, have access to some ideas is really key.
And I know, Beth, one of the areas that you're also very interested in is aligning mobility with the HRIS, the HR information systems.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the biggest things, as I said, that people come to speak with me about is when they're going through change. And one of the biggest changes they go through is implementing an HRIS. And I really want to help share knowledge about how best to implement your HRIS, which fields might work best for you, how they would interact with a mobility system, why you still need a mobility system, because HRISs don't meet all the mobility needs, and helping you to have that conversation with your business so that you're doing things as efficiently as possible and getting the most value out of everything as early as possible.
Okay. And one question for you, Russ, is how can clients actually reach you?
Oh, yeah, of course. Current Benivo clients can find me through your client success manager. You have a dedicated CSM who know exactly where to find me. And, certainly once we're introduced and if we're working together, by all means, you have direct access to me at any time. So I look forward to connecting and making those connections. Anyone else, and when I say anyone else, I am intentionally casting a wide net, and I do invite anybody who would like to reach out and contact Client Advisory to do so. You can go to benivo.com, our main webpage, and there's a solutions tab. And if you click Client Advisory, it's going to give you a great overview of our services, but it also includes a survey form where you can reach out to us. Just input your name, your question, what you're interested in, and it will route directly to us. And I would love to connect with you. If you just want to throw around a topic, pick my brain on a topic, please reach out. I would love to connect. That would be great.
Okay, I'm just going to bring back onto screen Siobhan and Julia. So the gang is all here. So Siobhan, starting with you, I mean, obviously you do client advisory work as an independent. How important do you see this sort of area of practice?
I think it's a fantastic area. I'm very jealous that you're setting it up and it's all for free for Benivo clients. But I think the major benefit is that you're not going to have to go through the whole procurement exercise and get budgets and all of those kind of things. So it seems a really fantastic way of doing it. But but you'll be pinching my project, so not so sure about that.
I'll stay in my lane.
Sorry about that. But whilst we would like to have every client out there, I suspect there's very, very many clients out there that we will not be offering free services to for the time being. Anyway, Siobhan, so I'm sure there's a massive, massive market out there. And anyway, we're coming towards the end of the show. Pat cannot join us because he's actually at the Vialto conference and live in Las Vegas. He's actually moved into session now, but it has been just wonderful having all of you guys here. Actually bring Tally back on too, so the gang is all here. Everybody do join us next week. We've got an amazing show next week. As I said, we're going to be talking to two of the most innovative people in our industry. We've got Tessa Boone from Ford, and if that's not enough, we've got Arjun Jongalada from Baker Hughes. So we've got two real industry legends joining us next week. Our hour is up. It's been wonderful having everybody back for the first show of 2023. And all that really remains is me to thank Tally, Beth, Russ, Siobhan, Julia, and of course, Pat. And indeed, look forward to welcome Tessa and Arjun next week. And indeed, our new tax guru, Julie Barron. So with that, and of course, to thank all of you in the audience. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed it. Take care, everybody, and have a great week, and see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Bye.